Snow drifted through the frontier marketplace like a silent ghost, settling on empty barrels and frost-bitten vegetables, but none of it compared to the sight that made cold Danner stop in his tracks. A young widow huddled in the snow with 5 children clinging to her as if she were their last lifeline, her red hair tangled by the wind, her eyes hollow from hunger, her toddler screaming in her arms, while the other 4 looked on with trembling lips and empty hands. And though townsfolk pretended not to see her, Cole could not ignore the way her shoulders shook with cold and fear. He knelt slowly, offering a small piece of bread. But the widow flinched as though kindness were a danger she no longer trusted, whispering that they hadn't eaten in 2 days, and she had nowhere left to go, since her husband died in a barn, collapsed last winter, leaving her with debts she never made and threats she never asked for, forcing her to flee from a landlord who wanted payment she could never give. Cole's chest tightened as he looked at the children's fragile faces, their cheeks red from the freezing wind, their clothes too thin for winter, their eyes darting between hope and disbelief as if expecting him to take the food back. But he didn't. He tore the bread gently into pieces and handed it out one by one, while the widow apologized again and again for accepting help, saying she didn't want charity, only a chance to keep her children alive. Cole told her that survival was not charity and compassion was not pity. And when the youngest reached for his hand with a tiny frost-bitten finger, something inside him shifted, a tug he hadn't felt since the day he lost his little sister years ago, the day he swore he'd never get close to anyone again, because grief had carved a hollow place in him too deep to fill. Yet here, in the falling snow, that hollow place softened as he watched the widow struggle to stay upright, swaying from exhaustion, still trying to shield her children with her own body. And he realized that her strength was not just the will to survive, but the refusal to give up even when the world turned its back. Townspeople finally began to glance their way, some with shame, some with judgment, none with courage. But Cole stood, removed his coat, and wrapped it around the widow's shoulders firmly, telling her his name and asking hers. And when she whispered, "Lydia," her voice cracked not from cold, but from a break in the wall she'd carried alone for too long. He lifted the toddler into his arms to ease her burden and helped the children stand, guiding them toward the warm lights of the nearest inn. And though Lydia protested that she couldn't pay him or owe him anything, Cole simply shook his head and said that sometimes a man chooses to do what's right, not because he must, not because he gains anything, but because some moments define who a person is, and this moment he knew would not be one he would walk away from.